Greetings, artists. I hope you're having a great week. Today we're going to be doing the third phase of our sequential art and illustration project. Phase 1, the first week, was that we drew out sketches and we planned our 6 illustrations and our title page or title illustration. Last week, or the second week, we drew out our final copy drawings of our illustrations and we made a template of our choice to put all of our illustrations in. And this last week, the phase 3, we're going to be adding either pen and ink or colored pencil to each of our illustrations. Or at that, actually, you can add anything for color. If you would prefer to use watercolor, anything that you can find in your home would work well. First things first, whether you're using color or you're going to be adding value with pen, you're going to outline with a thin pen your illustrations. So we're going to be doing our borders, each of our illustration boxes. We're going to outline each of our illustrations, all the main parts, before we add value or before we add color. All right, so I am using the Uniball pen, something I just found around my house. I would recommend do not use a thick Sharpie. You're just going to lose some of the details of your work. I'm going to go through and outline my words first. Like that. And then, sorry, my camera is moving on me. Tails. From the COVID-19 pandemic. I loved what I saw last week. Oop, did not mean to dot that I. You guys have done some really nice illustrations, nice and neat. I love all the backgrounds and the details that I saw you adding last week, so well done. Keep up the good work this week. And my tape measure. So I'm really just outlining all the main details of my illustrations. This is what you would see if you looked up. Let me turn my paper momentarily so I can use my ruler or my straight edge, whatever I have at home. This is what you would see in comic strips. But I better re-outline this. That illustrations have nice, clean outlines before value or color is added. Okay, and last but not least, my marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is at the end. All right, after you outline your illustrations, I recommend that you go over each illustration with an eraser just to get all the pencil lines off. And I'll finish that part up later. All right, so now we're ready to either add value or color. If you can remember from class, value is the range going from white to gray to black. Basically, the range of value, meaning you can think of it as shading, or the range from whites and grays all the way to black. All right, that's value. We've talked about that a lot in class. So when we're going to be adding black and white, we want to think of making sure that we have a range of value within each of your works. So I'm going to do the disinfect everything, and I'm going to just do something that I think you'd find in your home. I'm going to use the Papermate pen. So I'm going to look I noticed in the disinfect everything, you know, if this was actually spraying things out, we know that as we spray our disinfectants, you're going to get the most spray out of the front of the bottle, and then it kind of dissipates. So what I'm going to do for this illustration is I'm going to make it go from dark to light. And I'm shading it with kind of in a line format. Similar to how it would spray out. It's going to be darkest through this area. Now, so I can read my words, I am going to get kind of lighter around the words. So it's darker here. And pen is pretty amazing because I'm not pressing very lightly, and it's almost like, it almost feels like I'm shading with a pencil. I can get lighter and lighter, almost to white out here. Kind of filling it in over here. Again, you can still see my little lines. Okay. Darker through here. And then gradually, I'm going to lighten up on how hard I'm pressing. And I'm going to get lighter and lighter. I love that we are simply doing this with a pen that I most likely got for free somewhere. I'm purposely trying to choose art materials that I think most of you can find around your house. If you have fancy micron pens, you know, by all means, if you got the fancy stuff, go ahead and use it. But I do want to make sure I'm demonstrating with things that I know you can find in your home. Okay. And to save some time, I think you'll get the idea. Ranging from dark, I probably have to get a little darker over here, all the way to light. Okay, I got this nice fade effect. Okay, other things you can do, you may recall from class, something called stippling. Stippling is when I do little tiny dots. So maybe I want to pretend this is my countertop, right? And let's say my counter is kind of darker towards the edge. Okay, so this is called stippling. I'm doing little dots. Now, to make a darker value, I've got to put those little dots closer together. If I want to get lighter, I'm going to make those dots further apart. Okay, so again, I can still have a range of value just by using little dots. Okay, spreading them out where I want it to be lighter. Okay, you may recall hatching or cross hatching. Right, hatching, I'm going to use this for the background, is when I use lines to add value. And I'm thinking I want my background to be darker. So rather than just coloring it in, I'm going to use hatching to create a background or a value in my background. You may have heard me mention cross-hatching, which I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, cross-hatching, let's pretend that underneath my bottle of bleach, I've got a little bit of a darker value because of the shadow. So I'm going to make marks that cross over my other lines. Do you see how that makes a darker value? And that's called cross-hatching. All right, so if I'm using my pen, remember I can shade it in similar to a pencil just by making, when I want to make it lighter, I just ease up on how hard I'm pushing down my pen. I can do stippling to add value, which is when I'm making marks. And let me just add that I want you to make those deliberate. So if you make them really, really fast, you're going to have all these little tails on your dots, which don't look as nice. Or you can do hatching and cross hatching. And hatching is simply lines. Cross hatching means that you're going to overlap on top of those lines with other lines. All right, that was my demonstration for adding ink and black and white value. You also might, if you happen to have India ink at home, we have worked with India ink. You can get a range of value with that. That was the last project that we were working on. So now we're going to move on to adding color to our illustrations. So I have some colored pencils that I found in my son's room. I decided on purpose that I'm going to use what I can find around my house. I'm not going through my stash of more professional art supplies, just because I want to relate to more of you that may not have a nice stash of art supplies at home. And before I started this, I made sure my pencils were sharpened, but I did notice that there's a lot of pencils I have, like a ton of oranges and some reds, but I don't have any brown, I don't have any black. There's a lot that I'm missing, so I'm going to have to, like you might have to do, I'm just going to have to make do with what I have. All right, so I'm going to start the lawnmower. My lawnmower is red. When I'm coloring in with colored pencil, I want you to keep in mind that how you color, you're going to see the direction in which you draw. You might remember that from the bike project that we did this year. All right, sometimes we can color lightly and layer our colored pencil. That's an option. Or you can press really hard if you want it to be, the color to be very vivid and strong. That's going to be up to you. Again, you probably remember this from your bikes. I can, maybe I want, this is not so realistic, but I'm going to make my handlebar blue. Again, I'm being careful that I'm not going every which way to shade in my handlebar. Okay, and if I want to, I'm going to spice it up a little bit. I'm going to mix in a little bit of violet for fun. And if I want to layer colors, I just need to make sure I'm going to layer. It's more challenging if I press really, really hard and make my colored pencil really waxy. It's going to be more challenging to layer another color on top and blend it together. So I need to a little more slowly build up those layers. And hopefully you can think back to some of the demonstrations we had and some of the PowerPoint. Think about all the ways we can blend colors. You know, for example, we use rubbing alcohol to help blend our colors. You know, sometimes we have colorless blenders. Sometimes we take a lighter color and we go over top of it to blend the colors together, excuse me. There's a lot of different options. So I hope you enjoy either adding value with black and white or adding colored pencil. I want you to keep in mind the first thing you need to do is outline everything. So you have a nice crisp outline like you would see in different comics. And then you may choose to use either black and white or color. I think if I were you, I would recommend that you stick to one thing. So although I'm demonstrating and I have black and white over here and color over here, I would recommend that you choose one thing and use that throughout your whole illustration. That way it's more cohesive and will work well together. So have a great week, and I can't wait to see what you make.